There's a ton of noise out there. So how do you get decision makers to pay attention to your brand? Start a podcast and invite your ideal clients to be guests on your show. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to the B2B Growth Show, a podcast dedicated to helping B2B executives achieve explosive growth. Whether you're looking for techniques and strategies or tools and resources, you've come to the right place. I'm James Carberry.
And I'm Jonathan Green.
Let's get into the show.
Welcome back to the B2B Growth Show. This episode is sponsored by Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. Today we are joined by James Anderson. James is the CEO and founder of eAssist Dental Solutions. These guys have been on the Inc. 500 list 2 years in a row. We're thrilled to have James on the show today. James, welcome to the B2B Growth Show.
Thanks, Jonathan. Nice to be with you.
It's a pleasure to have you here, James. You're a fascinating guy. I mean, you're a dentist. You're a business owner. You've created something incredible, I think, with eAssist Dental Solutions. And today you're going to be sharing some wisdom with us sort of about the true measure of customer satisfaction. This is going to be an education for me. But before we get into that, James, maybe you can tell us a little about what you and your team at eAssist are up to these days.
You bet. We have about 480 people that work for us. Our goal is to solve one of the dental industry's biggest problems, and that is to get insurance companies to cough up the dough. They don't want to pay dentists after dentists do procedures. And I know your podcast focuses on founders. Very typical entrepreneurial story. I've started 9 dental practices. We had a problem getting insurance companies to pay, and so we created our own solution to do that. And now we have customers all over the country, customers in Canada. We're the nation's leading dental billing company. So it's been a good ride. We have a bunch of other auxiliary products that support our core product, but that's our primary focus.
That's fantastic. And obviously, James, you and your company, you've been met with a tremendous amount of success, especially in the last couple of years. So one of the reasons we're thrilled to have you on today. James, we were talking before we started recording about the true measure of customer satisfaction. I'll be the first to admit, I was uneducated about this, about today's topic. So one of the reasons I think I was personally invested in talking about it. James, what are we talking about? You're talking about the ultimate question here.
Yeah, the ultimate KPI. What's the most important way to measure how well your company's doing? Is it a financial number, or is it a gross margin? Is it profit margin? That's the way it's been forever. And in the internet age with Google reviews and how easy it is for anyone on Facebook to say whether or not they like your company or not. I mean, did you ever remember when United broke some artist's guitar? And he wrote this whole YouTube video about how United Airplanes breaks guitars. It went virtual, and they wouldn't refund his ticket, wouldn't replace his guitar. In the 90s, you can get away with that. In the 80s, you can get away with that. But in the internet age, United lost millions of dollars, and the CEO personally wrote him a sorry note and reimbursed him for like 10 guitars, and he wouldn't take it. He's like, well, you already helped build my career, so no thanks. I mean, you have to be very, very careful in today's internet economy whether or not people like what you're doing. And so one of the best things I've done, John, in the last couple of years is I went to Harvard's OPM program. It stands for Owner President Management. You have to own a company that does at least 10 million in sales to be invited. And when you're done, you're Harvard, alumnus and all that stuff. But it's a 3-year program, and it's for entrepreneurs only. I couldn't believe I was surrounded by 160 classmates from all over the world who all started their own companies for the most part. Mm-hmm. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel like some weird outcast, who always does stuff differently, right? Mm-hmm. I was now surrounded by like-minded people that go out and get things done and make stuff and hire people. And one of the courses we had was about customer satisfaction. How do you measure something? Any KPI you do, whatever you measure improves. And forever, until 2003, there was no real way to measure how happy your people were. Yeah, you could do a customer survey, and they had 20 questions, and no one really filled it out right, and the numbers were kind of all over the place. There was no standardized way to say this company compared to this company is doing well or doing better in terms of customer service. Until a Harvard professor in 2003, Fred Reichheld was his name, he came up with this idea of an ultimate KPI, the most important question you should ask, the most. It's a very simple question. And I'm sure most of your audience have had emails sent to you asking this simple question. And now after this podcast, they'll know exactly what they're going after. But right now, they just kind of filled it out, or maybe they ignored it, but whatever. The question is, it's one question. It's on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to recommend our service or our product to a family, friend, or colleague? Depending on what it is you're selling, right? If it's B2B, to a colleague, if it's an airline ticket, to a family member or friend.
Right.
The one question, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer us to someone that you love, someone that you admire, someone you trust, a family or friend, right? That's the ultimate question. And you can read about this on a book called The Ultimate Question 2.0, and you can listen to the Audible version. It's on Amazon. I highly recommend everybody does that, and you'll learn in-depth details. But it's in one of our classes, the Harvard professor said, now who uses NPS? And every single classmate in the entire class, except for me, raised their hand. I'm like, what? I never heard of NPS. It was developed in 2003, and these guys are all on the ball.
And that's a jarring formative experience. You look around and you say,
I was like kind of
goodness,
embarrassed. My face got flushed, and I was like, well, I don't think so. Maybe. So it really is. The thing about it is it's not as simple as, what's my Google review? Scale of 1 to 5, I'm 4.7 or 4.8. That's not what it is. It's very simple, but it's a measure of how likely people are to promote your product. I mean, you can spend thousands of dollars on marketing. Think of American Online, even in the 90s. They sent out these discs over and over and over and over again, and you just threw them in the trash, and you didn't really care. And it worked for a time, but they never changed their approach. You can spend thousands of dollars on TV advertisement and thousands of dollars on Google AdWords. But if you're like if people on Facebook or on like forums, chat forums for your industry, when they're all over the place, like in dentistry, if there's certain chat forums like Dental Town and things, places like that where dentists go and just talk about products. And if they're not promoting you and they're promoting somebody else, you're not going to grow, and all that advertising dollar, all the money you're spending is really worthless. Really worthless, because people are going to look at it and they might learn about you, and then they're going to find out what people are saying about you. But if a family member or a friend a colleague tells you on Facebook or tells you in an email or tells you when you talk to them, hey, you got to use these guys. eAssist Dental Solutions is awesome. It solved my problem. All the marketing dollars in the world can't beat that. That is the most important thing. And that's where these guys, Fred and the Ultimate Question 2.0 and the guys at Harvard, say you need to focus your attention on your NPS score. And the beauty of it is it now quantifies for the very first time customer satisfaction and how likely people are to tell their friends about your product or service.
Yeah, you had mentioned, that this is a more important question than, how are we doing on a scale of 1 to 5 or whatever it is. This kind of cuts through a lot of that.
Yeah. And it's open source. It's very simple. VC firms and PE firms like Bain Capital, they'll want to know what your NPS score is. And you can even look on their website and see how to quickly calculate it. And I'll go through that. It's very, very simple. It's very straightforward. And I'm going to be talking about a few numbers, so stay with me. And sometimes numbers are hard on a radio or podcast, so I'll try to break it into pieces. But let's say this is the way you calculate it. Let's say you have 10 customers. That's all. 10 customers. And you ask all 10 of those customers on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely are you to refer our product to your friend or family member? And let's say 2 of those people, only 2 of the 10 that you interview, say, yeah, they give you a 9 or a 10. Those are good scores. 9 or a 10 means they're a promoter. It means you don't have to ask them. You don't have to pay them. You don't have to beg them. They will tell a family or friend member or a colleague, use these guys. These guys are awesome. I love Southwest or whatever. I love Delta or I love GoDaddy, whatever. But then if someone gives you an 8 or 9 or a 7 or an 8, so 9 and 10 are promoters. If they give you a 7 or 8 in this formula, if they give you a 7 or 8, they're neutral. They're not enthusiastically telling their friends about whether or not you should use this product or service, and they're not telling them, oh, they're awful, don't use them. 7 or 8 don't count for or against you. They're just neutral in this formula that I'll talk about in a minute. But if they give you a 1 to 6, that's considered a detractor. That's someone who will actively on Facebook or in their social media circles, in their circle of influence, they will actively say, don't use those guys. Don't use them. We don't like them. We had a bad experience, whatever. And then people will follow their influence. Friends will listen to what friends have to say about stuff, right? We all do. Mm-hmm. So then the way you calculate your KPI, your NPS score, which stands for Net Promoter Score, NPS, Net Promoter Score. is you take the percentage of the people that actually said, yeah, gave you a 9 or a 10. So in this scenario, we had 10 people, 2 people gave us a 9 or a 10. So 2 out of 10 would be 20%, right? So 20% of our 10 customers that we have are promoters of our product, 20%. So the way you calculate your NPS score is you take your percentage of your promoters, in this case, 2 out of 10, 20%, minus your percentage of your detractors. Let's say in this scenario, of the 10 people, 10 customers we have, 4 of them gave us a 5 or a 6 or a 1 or a 2. And then the other 4 gave us a 7 or an 8. So we don't care about the 7 or 8s. But if 4 of the 10 gave us a 1 to 6, then that percentage would be 4 out of 10. That's 40%. Mm-hmm. So to calculate your NPS score, you say 20% of your promoters, 2 out of 10. So 20% minus the 40% of your detractors, because you have 40, in this scenario it was 40%. So it's your promoters minus your detractors, percentage of your promoters minus the percentage of your detractors equals your net promoter score. So in this scenario, 20% minus 40% equals negative 20%. So it wouldn't be a percent, I'm sorry. The net promoter score would be negative 20. That's a bad score.
That sounds like a bad score, yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad score. And that company will not survive. Doesn't matter how many marketing dollars you spend, what kind of strategies you have. You have execution problems. You may have strategy problems, but you have people problems. People are not focusing on your customers.
And so James, you had mentioned earlier, there is a score that you're kind of shooting for. What is a good score?
A good NPS score is 50 or higher. That is good. It's like when the Apple stores first launched, they were 50. Now they're 70. And it vacillates, but still, that's the idea, is that you track it, and you can even track it store by store by store by store. And this Harvard professor, when he talks about it, again, the book is called The Ultimate Question 2.0. You can get it on Amazon. And I'm not affiliated with him at all. I don't get any kickback. This is awesome. This is awesome. This is awesome stuff for an entrepreneur. But one of the companies that started doing this while he did this research and came up with this idea was Enterprise Rental Car. Back then in the 80s and 90s, they were not the biggest rental car company in the world. Hertz was. They are now. And so they came up with their own model of asking this ultimate question, finding out what net promoter scores are in every branch or every store location throughout the entire country. Mm-hmm. So they would have an average NPS score of what they didn't call it NPS, but it was something else, but it was the same idea for worldwide or countrywide where they are, but then they could break it into regions and hold their regional managers accountable for the NPS scores that were coming out of those regions and coming out of those locations. And so now you really know whether or not those people are putting the customers first, not financial dollars first. Like if you chase that, you go after something called bad profits. Like Blockbuster Video, they chased bad profits. They got their money off of the late fees, and that ticked everybody off. So the NPS scores were real low, but there wasn't any competition, so no one cared. They didn't care. They got a lot of money. They chased it until Redbox came out. And then all of a sudden everybody fled because they hated Blockbuster. So you can't chase bad profits. You can't chase bad profits. You focus on your customers. You make sure you have a number now to know how well you're doing for the very first time. If you've never tracked this before, that can be easily comparable to other industries even, because we're all asking the same question. And it's a very simple one. Would you tell your family or friend? Would you recommend us to a family or friend? Very simple. So the best way now you have the best management tool you could possibly have to really focus your culture on putting your customer first. The financial results are important and they'll follow. If your customer is always taken care of, think of some of the most trusted companies that you admire. And what do they do differently than companies that you don't admire? In my opinion, they put your customer first, right? They put you first. They take care of you. And you can see it over and over again. I think a good example of that would be Amazon. I don't know what their NPS score is, but everybody likes Amazon now. That wasn't always the case, but they don't put profits first, even though I think Jeff Bezos is the richest man in the world now. I don't know what it is, but he came from nothing. He had nothing at all. He keeps his profit margins very low. It doesn't mean you can't have a high NPS score and have high profit margins. You can, but he's selling commodities everywhere. But they just take care of their customers. They put the customers first, and other people, if they were to stop doing that and just chase the dollar and don't care about and not really track or take care of whether or not the customers are happy, someone could knock them off their peer. I believe that. And someone could knock me off, knock us off, right? If we stop focusing on our clients first.
It's story time, and this growth story is about search engine marketing. Okay, so the story revolves around eSub, a project management SaaS company specifically for subcontractors. Even though eSub had incredible customer retention, they struggled with growth. Being a niche service, they discovered that there was little demand expressed for their solutions within search engines. To take on this challenge, eSub hired Directive Consulting, the B2B search marketing agency. After refining targeting, pre-qualifying clicks with an ad copy, and developing custom landing pages, Directive was able to increase eSub's marketing qualified leads by 71%, while decreasing their cost per lead by 65%. I have a hunch that Directive can get these kind of results for you too. So head over to directiveconsulting.com and request a totally free custom proposal. That's directiveconsulting.com. All right, let's get back to this interview.
Yeah, makes a lot of sense. I mean, it's a powerful question. It's a powerful metric. And like you said, I mean, it's all of a sudden it's a quantifiable thing that you can see and track, that true measure of customer satisfaction. So, James, I mean, it's a powerful lesson. It's a powerful takeaway. Obviously, customer satisfaction is a priority for you. I also know that we were talking about some of your priorities in eAssist Dental Solutions and what you're trying to provide for your not only clients but also for your employees. And so this is one of the questions we've been asking a lot of founders, a lot of CEOs in 2018. And we would kind of like to know then, James, sort of at the end of the day, for you personally, professionally, or a combination of the two, what's the kind of legacy that you're hoping to leave behind?
Let me answer that question by saying one more thing about eNPS that actually helps solidify that. There's another take on NPS called eNPS. It stands for Employee Net Promoter Score. You ask the same question to your employees: how likely are you to refer a family or friend to work at your company? And it's all anonymous. You get real numbers. You can really see how happy your people are. Our people make the difference, right? Our people, and you should know, everyone in this audience should know what their NPS scores are and what their eNPS scores are. That's the best tool to help you manage and make strategic decisions. So like our goal, our legacy is to really make this world a better place. There's so many, I'm going to say this, in dentistry, it's usually a male dentist and a lot of female coworkers, right? It always is. I don't know why. It's just the way it is. It's changing now. There's a lot of female dentists, but they don't practice as long. And it's usually a man and a lot of female coworkers. And so most of them are stuck in dead-end jobs, office managers that are making $40,000 a year, and they have a moody doctor they have to deal with, and they have to commute for an hour, and they end up getting divorced, and then they can never see their kids, and their quality of life is awful, and they don't get to enjoy what we enjoy as entrepreneurs. They don't get to own their own company. They don't get to chart their own destiny. Like, there's something about life. I watched The Greatest Showman, and my favorite song now is A Million Dreams. It's about an entrepreneur. You've seen it. An entrepreneur who, as a kid, has a million dreams. He wants to make the world the way he wants it. He wants to design it. He wants to be proactive and not be acted upon. I mean, it's just powerful. Deep, spiritual lessons, in my opinion. Just powerful. And so I want to help women, single women, all throughout America. And again, we have 480 people now that work for us. Be entrepreneurs, to chart their own course, to be able to create something different and enjoy the fruits of their labor. And so our people are, they can make a lot more money depending on how hard they work. It's not just a guaranteed rate, salary, whatever. They get to enjoy the American dream just like I do. And when you do that, when you tap into the spirit of entrepreneurism, man, it's amazing what your people can accomplish. They build our companies. It's not us, right? We lead it. We have the vision and we lead it, but our people do it. Mm-hmm. And so our legacy really needs, and we have these podcasts we do or these newsletters that we do every year or every month. And we interview an eAssister. We call ourselves eAssister. It just kind of happened organically. Mm-hmm. If you work for eAssist, you're an eAssister. And we have these eAssist clubs in every state, and they get together and just have fun together, and because it's just the way it works. But I get these stories, these emails. Thank you so much for creating this job. I had one lady who we went down to Arizona to meet some people. She drove 2 hours just to come say hi to me and to tell me thank you.
Wow.
She was older, like in her 60s, a new dentist, bought the dental practice. She wasn't pretty enough, right? Nonsense. So stupid. That dentist was so stupid. This lady is so dynamite, but he's a young, arrogant, didn't really know, so, and he let her go. She found eAssist. She's now making twice as much money as she was making before. She gets to stay home, doesn't commute for an hour each way. She gets to take care of her ailing husband. And she wanted to come and thank me for creating this opportunity for her. It changed her life.
Wow.
Like, that's our legacy. That's why the money comes, it follows. But if I focus on people, focus on customers, man, it's wonderful what kind of magic happens.
Well, I mean, it's certainly a beautiful legacy. Obviously, you and eAssist and the eAssisters, are doing some fantastic work. So again, congratulations on the incredible growth that you've enjoyed. It's absolutely earned. And James, if any of our listeners are interested in connecting with you, they want to find out more about today's episode, they want to find out more about eAssist Dental Solutions, or they want to talk more about NPS, they want to talk about the ultimate question. What's the best way for them to go about doing that?
Go to our website, dentalbilling.com, and then just click on the apply or the email address that you see there, and it'll be forwarded to the sales team and then forwarded to me if they want to talk to me directly. Or if they call the it's an 844 number, a toll-free number. We still use that. It's 1-844-eAssist, E like eBay, and then the word assist, 1-844-eAssist. If they call that, ask to talk to the CEO, James Anderson. If I'm available, I'll pick up. If not, I'll get a message and I'll get back to you. I'm happy to talk to fellow colleagues. I love being with entrepreneurs and people that think like I do. It's just something exciting about not thinking you're weird anymore. Right? By realizing you do have a place in this world, and there are people that think like you, and it's just fun to see the energy that happens. So I love to learn from them and share any ideas I have with them. Happy to help any way I can, vice versa.
That's great, James. Thank you. Your enthusiasm is certainly infectious. I do really appreciate it. It was a pleasure having you on the show today.
Thanks, Jonathan. I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. I'd love to come back another time.
There are lots of ways to build a community, and we've chosen to build the B2B growth community through this podcast. But because of the way podcasts work, it's really hard to engage with our listeners. And without engagement, it's tough to build a great community. So here's what we've decided to do. We're organizing small dinners across the country with our listeners and guests. No sales pitches, no agenda, just great conversations with like-minded people. We'll talk business, we'll talk family, we'll talk goals and dreams. We'll build friendships. So if you'd like to be a part of a B2B growth dinner in a city near you, go to b2bgrowthdinners.com. That's b2bgrowthdinners.com. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.